Welcome to NicoProps. I'm Chris Fry, also known as Nicodemus. So I'm in the man cave office portion of my house for a very good reason, because I need the pool table. And the reason I need the pool table is I've got to do a leather repair. What's that got to do with pool? Well, it's basically my father's case. Here, Albert, hold that. So this is my father's pool case. Now, I'm going to do some zoom ins on it in a moment, but the handle is broken, the straps are damaged, and this is the cue case, his snooker cue case. I like pool, so we're using my pool table. But he plays snooker. He also plays pool, but yeah. So this is his cue case. Needs some repair work done. There's a catch that's broken. I'm going to try and repair that if I have the time, but my priority is to fix this handle. Now this is a synthetic leather. It's not a proper leather on this case, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to use proper leather on it. So let's have a quick look at the damage on this and then we'll get into the repair. Okay. Cheers, Albert. It's your shot.
Strap on my dad's cue case. Just pulling up the padding to show how it's fixed in. It's just through a couple of slots. It's an MDF case. Using a screwdriver, I can pry up the little bands and remove the staples and the glue that's holding them. It's just a contact adhesive, nothing special. And this is quite easy to do actually. Allows me to pull it out, and I can use the pieces and a vernier caliper to write down the sizes of each of the components so that I can cut them out of leather and draw up some templates is the idea. So what I'm going to use for this is a Veg Tan Leather. This is a leather that's quite natural. And it allows for taking of dye and water-based dyes and that kind of thing, and it also allows me to be able to shape and stamp it as well. So I want to not only just replace the part on the case, I actually want to make some personalizations and some improvements. So I'm currently just getting out a tool, a leather working tool. This is for punching the ends of belts. It actually turned out to be quite dull in the end. Which is a shame really, and I ended up taking it down the workshop. But this is some 2mm thick leather. I cut off a piece so that I could try and use this strap tool, which I was having some trouble with. So I tried to put a nick into the leather to try and get the tool going, and it wasn't really working for me at all. So I ended up just giving up and just cutting it with a very sharp Stanley knife, or utility knife if you will. This allowed me to trim up and cut the little straps that are going to hold the handle into the casing. Next, just cutting out the template here so that I can put it on top of the leather. I'm going to use a thicker leather for this. I'm going to use a 4mm leather for the actual handle itself because it needs to be thicker. I found that the Stanley knife wasn't cutting the paper either, so I started using some scissors in the end. So there's the 4mm leather, just putting the pattern down, marking it out with an awl, just for the key points so that I can kind of try and cut it out the leather. This leather does cut, but because it's so thick, I'm having to do several passes on it, which is the only issue that I'm having. What I'm doing here is I'm trying to cut circles into the corners in the hope of not tearing the leather so that I haven't got any square, sharp corners. And we can see I'm using that stamp there, and it's not cutting through the material particularly well, so I use it as a template and try to cut round it using the Stanley knife, which was a bit tricky. So there's me just kind of working my way around it, attempting not to take my own fingers off with a Stanley knife, which would be a bad thing. Wouldn't be the first time I slice through my finger with a Stanley knife either. So I'm quite cautious with these blades now, and it doesn't matter how cautious you are. You know, you're still going to cut your fingers and things like that occasionally, and you know, there's no point wearing gloves with something like this. I need to be able to feel what I'm doing. So those are the pieces. Now I thought I'd try, I'm doing a quick sand here just to get rid of any burrs and things off the edges of the leather. Get rid of all the fluffy parts and kind of try and round off the ends. I'm also going to use another technique on here, which I'll explain in a minute, for trying to create sort of creases and pattern lines and things on the parts. I'm going to use my blowtorch here in a moment. So that's a piece of graphite from my kitchen. I'm using a tool here for creating this score line, but I don't know if this is the first time I've used it, so I don't know if it's how I'm using it or what, but I couldn't keep the line straight. It wasn't dipping in enough. I don't know if I'm supposed to, if I'm not using the tool right because the leather wasn't wet, but it just seemed to sort of scorch and make it crunchy. It wasn't ideal, really. So.
Right, so it's at this part of making the strap that I realised that I'm not really happy with the way that it's going. So I decided to change tack and actually do it a slightly different way, which I'm going to show you in a minute. But while I've got you, I just wanted to ask if you could subscribe, and if you're liking the video, press the like button. And if you want to see more stuff like this, there's another video at the end, but you can also hit the bell notification icon. That's going to let you know when I release a new video. I'm going to be releasing a lot of series. Now let's get back into having a look at how I resolved the strap by cutting a new one, which basically I just cut out of a strip rather than actually kind of trying to carve it out of the leather itself. And then I used a belt cutter, which I then had to sharpen because it was a cheap Chinese one. I had to go and sharpen it on my grinder. But once I sharpened it, it cut through fine. So let's go and have a look at the rest of the fix on this.
So I cut a fresh strip of leather this time. I also took the tool down to down the workshop and actually ground the edge of it to sharpen it back up again, which seems to have helped a lot. These were just cheap Chinese tools, so it's not really surprising. I think this was a better method of doing it. It seems to work a lot better than trying to cut it out the leather initially. So I'm just cutting out the extra strips here with the Stanley knife. I got a much cleaner, a much nicer cut. So I think it just goes to show, you know, even though these tools were new, it's worth treating them as if they're dull and sharpening them up the first time. So there's the strap in the middle, a bit of a zoom in. What I'm using here is a special skiving tool. In leatherworking it's called skiving, just to kind of take the square edges off the leather there, just to remove those so that it's a bit more rounded and a bit neater. I did actually, while I was using this, realize that, you know, you don't actually need to put a lot of pressure on this. I was putting pressure on and it was getting stuck. So it's actually easier to not put too much pressure on and just let it glide at its own pace, really. Just taking off the edges there on the corners, and that's the finished strap. So with the Veg Tan Leather, what you can do is you can actually wet it like so, and I'm just wetting these pieces here so that you can actually stamp it. So I'm going to use some leather working stamps here that I picked up cheap on eBay, and you can get them on Amazon and such. I'll put links in the description for those, and those links will be Amazon affiliate links, obviously, so that it'll help support the channel, because obviously I want to continue to do this full time. And if you want to support the channel other than monetary, you can obviously you know, subscribe and like this video, especially if you like what you've seen so far. So I'm using a Union Jack stamp there, which I don't actually have the proper stand for. It didn't stamp very well, so I'm going to have to get a better stand. So now, although I've wet it some more, and I'm going to use this fabric dye again. There will be links in the description for this, so don't panic too much. You can go back and pause this and view it if you like. But I'm just kind of using a dabber, a special dabber. This is a wool dabber for applying the dye. I've also put some paper down, just some sort of craft paper to protect the surface, because I'm working in my dining room today. So we can see that colour's coming quite nicely. I've picked this colour specifically because it's close to what's already part of the case, as well as the black. Now, using this wooden tool, I'm burring the edges. This kind of burns and melts the edges a bit and makes it a bit smoother. It's just a wooden tool. They come in some simple kits. And you just kind of rub it to create friction on the edges to smooth it all out a bit. It gets rid of any of those kind of bobbly sharp edges and things, and just makes it a bit nicer. And then what I'm going to be doing now is just cutting off a piece of t-shirt, and this is some leather food, effectively some softener. It's for saddles and stuff like that. I'll put a link in the description as well, an Amazon affiliate link, so you can get that. And I'm just kind of rubbing it in and then letting it kind of soak in a little bit, and then I'm going to use a fresh clean piece of this t-shirt that I'm using to kind of buff it a little bit, and then I just put another light coat on, just to kind of make sure it's nice and supple and soft. In my experience previously, these have ended up getting quite hard as they dry out. So, and just putting the strap on and just kind of poking the leather through just to put it in place. And then it was a little bit fiddly on the inside, get them pulled through. And I put this the vernier calipers in there just to kind of hold the foam back from sticking to the contact adhesive I'm now applying. So I put some contact adhesive in there, and I neglected to put the camera back on when I completely finished this, and all that I missed out was I did a few staples over the top just to be safe. These were 6mm staples. I actually had to go out and buy them specially for this project. I measured the staples I took out and then went and bought some that matched the same length. So this is just a contact adhesive. You just let it sort of set. Once it goes tacky, you can push them together.
So, I've switched over to my American pull balls for the American viewers. The first set of balls you may have been a bit confused by. That's English pull for you, and I am English after all. But to accommodate our cousins over the sea, American pull. Thanks for so much for watching the video. I really appreciate it. If you like the video, like it, and don't forget to subscribe, as well as hit that notifications bell to get more notifications. It's been so good to do this video, and I really appreciate everybody watching it. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you very much. And that's it from me. You gonna go or what? Oh, and Albert says goodbye as well.